Select Board meeting to order. Tonight is Thursday, January 10th, 2019, with the agenda as follows. First, we will have a public comment, approval of warrants and minutes, mail, town administrator's report, which will consist of a resignation letter from Nelson, Clean Water State Revolving Fund information for the landfill, economic development activity, plans to place all permits and fees available online, meeting with the Chamber of Commerce president, meeting with Southern Vermont Economic Development Board in Wilmington, alarm system in the highway garage, employee evaluations, Ladbrook Inn conversion to low-cost housing, a request of $45 to attend a government day, first draft of an emergency action plan, revised Town of Pownal transition return to work program, revised Town of Pownal procedures for select board meetings, consideration of school buses, resignation from the Economic Development Committee, executive session for personal evaluations, old business, budget discussion, and amend transfer station fees, and nothing for new business unless someone else has something. With that said, I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Bob.
Bob?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay. Anybody for a public comment tonight?
Just Jerry Percy.
Would you like to come up to the microphone? Pull up a chair. No, chair. Here, you want a chair? I'll get you.
That's right.
Sure.
I did in response. It's a little separate issue, but about the water. I didn't know if there was any more from the state as far as the PFOA and what they're going to do down here, the wells or whatever.
Not that I'm aware of right now.
I have a meeting with the state. I don't know what the crux of that meeting will be. It was supposed to be this afternoon, and that was postponed.
Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Approval of minutes from December 27th.
So moved.
I called in, so I'm thinking I should abstain because I wasn't actually here.
It's the same as attending.
Yes, you're attending.
Is
So
it
that's-
okay?
Yeah.
Then I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay. Minutes from January 3rd, special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
It's just Ronnie and I.
Aye.
Aye.
And Bob?
Full abstain. I haven't seen them.
Okay. And nay? Okay. So carried. Warrants. First one is for payroll for the week ending January 4th in the amount of $11,775.81. This one is for payroll ending January 11th in the amount of $7,957.63. This is accounts payable, week ending January 4th in the amount of $110,015.50. With the large one being $91,000 to our insurance company, $4,600 to the IRS, health insurance, $5,700. And tires for the highway department, $4,200. Next one is for accounts payable, weekend ending January 11th, in the amount of $13,980.58. With the large ones being Sheriff's Department for $4,300, IRS $2,600. And the last one is accounts payable in the amount of $3,903.02. That is for Green Mountain Power and Hoosick River Hydro. Those are warrants, and I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Abstain, okay. Any nays? Okay. Mail.
Mr. Chairman, first piece of mail is the certificate of highway mileage year ending February 10th, 2019, total of 76.146, and that is for your signature, sir.
So, I mean, there's no motion or anything, right?
No.
Well, the board has to sign that.
Okay.
Yes. The second piece of mail is from Santec Corporation Consulting Services. These are the folks that do our samples at the transfer station. It's an authorization for additional services, essentially a price increase, and that would be for your signature as well.
And that's for the monitoring walls at the dump?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Just the one.
Thank you.
Oh, just you?
Yeah.
Send that back down to Jason. Or did he sign it already? Oh, you signed it up.
Yeah, so it
He
goes
signed it.
Up on the other spot. Okay.
yeah, it goes to
My mistake.
Next is a invitation to the Bennington County Regional Commission. They're having their meeting at the Brown Cow Cafe in Bennington, 139 Main Street. It's at 5:30 p.m. on January 17th, 2019. I'll be attending, if you'd like to attend. I have the sheriff's report. There were 12 property checks. There were 19 patrols, 18 warnings, 5 tickets. There were 3 cases of theft. They performed casework 3 times. They issued 4 search warrants, or they executed 4 search warrants, made 1 arrest, and had 1 medical assist. And that is mail, sir. Thank you.
Town Administrator's report.
Mr. Chairman, the first item is the resignation of Nelson Brunell. It is with sadness I must resign from the Select Board. Due to other commitments, I feel I would not be able to attend a large number of meetings, and that many phone calls would not allow me to provide the service I need for the position. So that others may run to fill out the rest of my term next year, please accept that I will be resigning from the board as of February. Wishing you all the best year. I also have an addendum to that based on some back and forth with the state. He is changing that to January 17th. And per the Secretary of State, people can start getting their signatures now if they wanted to.
Okay.
I thought it was the 27th, Michael.
27th of January.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
said 17th.
Did I say 17th? I beg your pardon, ma'am. And I recommend a motion to accept with regret.
I'll second the motion.
Will you move?
I can't
You're
move
gonna
a
make the
motion.
motion.
Oh,
I can't move.
all right, then I'll make the motion to
Second.
accept with regret.
Second. Discussion?
Can we have some discussion on it?
Sure. Can you come on up and state your name?
John Machie. I just had a few questions I didn't know about it, and I wanted to get some clarification. Is there only like 2 meetings left, just February's meetings, or do we have another one for January? And why I'm asking is because if there's, I didn't understand why he's putting in for the 27th, when, if there's only a couple meetings left, that it doesn't make sense to hold off if he's gonna be out in January and there's no other meetings for January, why he couldn't be out even as of tonight's meeting, because the fact is that if there's no other meeting, there's nothing there to have to stay in that position for.
There's 2 meetings scheduled, regular meetings, the second Thursday of the month and the 4th Thursday of the month.
The 16th is a special meeting.
And the special
16th
meetings
special. Okay.
are announced.
And there could be possibly one more.
Okay. That's what I wanted
So
to
why
check
he's
on,
dated it that,
Yeah.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah, I didn't know if he would be on the phone tonight or not, so that's what I was gonna ask of it, but.
We
Okay.
should check with the town clerk because she checked upstate to make sure that everything was above board and legal and that it gave enough time for anybody who wanted to run for office to get the paperwork in and still be on this ballot.
Okay,
And not have to have a special.
okay. That's what I wanna check on, cause
Okay.
I mean, it's only leaving one day, and that's what, concern is, it leaves one day to do it. I know if people could take it out.
No,
But at
there
least-
isn't one day to do it.
What is the date
You
of
can
the
take out a
meeting?
petition now.
Right, you could take them out now, but if it.
You don't have to
Right.
hand it in to the 28th.
Right. Well, one of my understandings is when you put them in, if the names are overlapping, they can't be used, it means you have to go back and get more names.
Not-
That's true.
confusing me, but-
The first person
Put 'em in.
that has the name, it counts for that person.
Right.
If it's another term, the same term, somebody voted for somebody else, or it don't count.
But you could put it in tomorrow if you wanted to.
No, you can't, from my understanding from this, you can't put them in until the seat is empty.
And you'll have to check with
That's-
Jolie because that's not the way I understood the email from the state of Vermont.
I understood the email to say that they could take out and start getting signatures. I'm not clear on whether they can turn it in or not.
It couldn't be, what they said is, what I read on it was that it couldn't be put in until seat was emptied. So that if it's not empty till the 27th, they can't put it in till the 28th, which will be one day to try to collect. Or if the names are repetitive, whoever puts it in first would have their names in. But if there's overlapping names on it for somebody
We
else.
always did in case that happened because it's happened many other years for just a regular election. We just got extra signatures. Because how many do you need? 40?
Something like that, right?
Yeah,
45.
Thirty.
Yeah,
35.
so get 50. You're not going to have that many overlapping, I don't think.
depends. May. But it just seems like it's not leaving enough time. I don't know if that's a fair thing for the town to be,
I'm not
people
sure.
trying to run, but.
I know. And the hard thing
It's
with that
just a
is,
concern.
that's not, we don't have that control over that as a select board. That's the town clerk and the state.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely. Could you come up and state your name, please?
I just had a question, a clarifying question, is that now that that resignation has been accepted by you all, is there, there's nothing that would preclude him from rescinding that resignation between now and that time, right? It's been,
It's in writing.
It's in writing, yeah.
it's in writing, so there's no,
That's right.
okay.
Would you mind
wanted
just
to check.
stating your name so
Sure,
people
it's
know?
Donna Lozano.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. We can vote on it. All in favor?
Oh, hey, I'm sorry, can I chime in here?
Sure.
I'm not sure if we can ask him to do it or not, but it might address one of the problems, right? Or one of the potential issues is that our last select board meeting is the 24th. Maybe we could just ask Nelson if he can make it effective on the 25th. That would give a couple more days, and that would be a Thursday, and that would be I'm sorry, obviously the 25th would be a Friday. But at least that would give us a couple more days, or give people a couple more days. It wouldn't be the 27th to the 28th.
Would you like to take care of doing that? Maybe send him an email and ask him?
Yeah, just ask him if he wants to make that effective on the. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll
Okay.
email him if he wants to make it effective on the 25th.
I believe he's been talking to the town clerk in the state of Vermont.
Yeah,
over
again,
it, so
we don't have any,
we don't have the authority to do that, Bob,
We don't have the authority to do what?
to ask him to change his resignation.
You can just suggest it.
We don't have the authority to ask him a question. It's still his choice.
No, you can ask him a question, but we don't have an authority to ask him to change his resignation. Now,
No. Well, I'm not saying
change
we
the date.
may say no. I mean, but if he says, "Oh yeah, that would give a couple more days," sure, I'll do that. There's no material difference.
Right.
I'm not saying that we vote on it and, and he's out on the 25th. But it's still his choice.
Okay.
It just might give it a couple more days. I think we can still vote, accept his resignation. If nothing else changes, it becomes effective on the 27th. And if he sends something in and says, "Well, we're going to make it," I'll make it effective on the 25th. That's still fine. I don't see an issue.
Okay.
Right. I just trying to address everybody's concerns.
Sure. Okay. So again, we'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
To
Say
accept
aye.
the resignation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Say nay. Okay. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, second, the next item would be regarding the Clean Water Revolving Fund, relates to the landfill. The first order of business with that would be received requests for qualifications. I've received requests for qualifications for engineering companies to execute the Phase 2 portion of that. Evaluated those through a matrix based on environmental experience, staffing, subcontractor experience, technical experience, project experience, and landfill expertise, as well as references, and having both Weston and Sampson and Johnson & Johnson Company, I beg your pardon, Sanborn Head and Johnson & Johnson Company both came out highly qualified, yet Johnson & Company wrote the plan for the Phase 2, and they have much more national experience. So before we go into exactly what it all is, I would like to request that you approve Johnson & Johnson Company to perform under the revolving loan fund the Phase 2 for the landfill west.
Okay. So that's your recommendation?
That's my recommendation.
Okay. And maybe you could just brief
Sure.
us a little bit what this pertains to.
Sure. There was a permit taken out for a solar company to place solar panels on the west landfill site. And under the rules for environmental conservation, there had to be a Phase 1 evaluation, which essentially is a walkthrough evaluation of the site, as well as evaluation of the different buildings and the different processes that go through. That led to discovery of some issues that compelled us to have to do a Phase 2. There was no money to do a complete Phase 2 evaluation. However, Bennington County Regional Commission supplied the money to have the plan written. So we have a plan in place, but we did not have any funding. Contacted the state to get a brownfield grant and was turned down, and was suggested I apply for a state revolving fund. And the state revolving fund, as we'll go into, is kind of complex, but the first thing I have to do is hire an engineering company to complete the rest of the plan for the revolving loan, because the revolving loan itself wishes that we have engineering information, and I'm not an engineer. So first step was to get this company on board, and then the second step is to go through the processes for the revolving loan. The idea behind this is to evaluate the site as to if there is any effluent in the water table coming out, PFOA or any other contaminants, and then the mitigation would be fixing that. And whatever we find on the Phase 2 will be part of the mitigation process. It's an interest-free loan, and we can belay it for 5 years before we have to pay it. As I'll go into, once this is addressed, the complexities of this grant and how I've been working with the Clean Water Revolving Fund to try to get this in motion. So that leads us to evaluation of this company and recommendation for Johnson & Johnson as the engineering company.
Okay. And it's not like we really have any choice.
No, we're going to be compelled to do this whether we get the loan or not.
Okay.
So I'd rather go do whatever I can as best as I can to get that loan so it's interest-free.
Okay. Any upfront costs?
There will be upfront costs that will be paid. Probably the Phase 2 itself, we will probably have to take out a loan to pay the engineering company. That will be reimbursed at a later date.
Any questions?
Have you checked with the Vermont State Electrical also, because they have solar incentives?
The solar incentives are relate to once the site is set and their engineering studies to have actual the solar site placed. And yes, yeah, there are incentives for that. In fact, I can't remember the gentleman's name from Green. Ralph. Yeah, we talked about that. We're going to contact him. This is going to be quite a long process. So once this is put into motion, when that is applicable, we'll go through and look for those. Then you're absolutely right.
They also have a SMRF fund up there. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but there's monies available to towns and municipalities through that also. If you want to check with engineering, with BGS.
What was the name of that, sir?
It's a SMRF. I can't, like I say, I don't remember what the acronym is on.
I'll check with the state. I've been talking to them quite extensively, and if there is something else, I'll ask them. But thank you very much for your time, sir.
So do we need
A vote to accept this Johnson & Johnson company
Okay.
to do the phase 2 and the mitigation portions.
Okay. We'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Say yes. Say aye.
Say yes.
Aye. 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 I'm
Aye.
sorry.
Whatever
Aye.
I'm supposed to say.
Aye. Aye. Bob?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Regarding the site itself, I've been working with Mr. Sean Donovan. We are a high priority, and in that high priority, this particular loan and the method by which it's being given to us, or we're applying for it, is, I guess, groundbreaking. So we've been talking back and forth about the process, and at this point, I've got the fact sheet in front of you. I'll paraphrase this for the audience. The first step is we put the application to the state, and that includes the phase 2 estimates, which we've already done. We've just hired a engineering service for phase 2. We notify now the state of the selection, and once we're approved, myself and the engineers will develop a work plan and develop a cost estimate. And then per a draft agreement, we'll look at specific planning and costs. We will go through the loan guidance to ensure costs are accurately entered, and we'll make sure that everything is eligible. The next step is with the engineer, confirm that plan estimate and maintain that we're loan eligible and made available to reimbursement before we move forward. We take the data retrieved from the phase 2 plan of the plant mitigation plan, work with the engineering company to develop the remainder of the loan document, including the scope of work for mitigation. Perform the mitigation work, and then we'll have to get a revenue anticipation note or a bond, depending on costs, in order to pay down the loan, and it is in for free. So right now, these are the steps, and we've been on the phone a lot talking about these steps, because from what I'm being told, this is kind of first of its kind, so we're working through this.
Okay.
So it's going to take some time.
Okay.
The next economic development activity, we've been both going to different businesses. I've been going to different businesses, trying to find out from business owners what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what can we do better to assist them, and coming up with a list of those items. And one of which was the streamlining processes and permitting. And we're doing just that, and I'll bring up another item later. We've also, the Economic Development Committee has just approved a rough draft of a survey program that would be put on our website, and that survey program will give us a better idea of what the citizens in town are looking for businesses. It'll also give business owners an idea of what they can ask of us. As I spoke to last meeting, I now have the ability to take commercial properties and put on the state economic development website. We've worked with VTrans. They have a check it and book it program that we've already worked with our medical facility down on Route 7 to enable people that have no ability to get to the medical appointments to get that done. met with the State Regional Economic Development Committee. And again, we'll speak of that a little bit later. And we're discussing marketing plans and strategies to get businesses into the town. We've been approached by the Ladbroke Motel, and they want to do workforce housing, put a package together for those folks and give them some guidance on how to start moving forward with that. Health department, health officer met with them, is positive about that. I met with our wastewater supervisor, and she's going to walk them through that process. So essentially what we're trying to do is through the committee and our actions try to streamline processes and make sure that people have the right information they need to move through these so they can get their businesses open with the least amount of resistance. I talked extensively to Mr. Trevor Mance. One of the things that he suggested, what he has is difficulty getting qualified employees. So we've been looking into USDA grants for workforce training and the possibility at some point in the future of doing a job fair. Put people together with that training so that we have employable people in the community. So there's an awful lot going on. The committee is a bunch of bright people, and they're doing great work, and I'm pretty happy with it.
So question, so we have 2 surveys or 1?
I'm physically going to businesses.
Okay.
The second is an actual online survey,
Okay,
and that's
good.
citizens.
Okay.
So if you decide, answer one of the questions, I'd like to see a barber shop, that would go in the polling with other people that would like that kind of a business.
Okay.
That's the idea of that. And that would give the entrepreneurs the idea to come in and start that type of a business. So
Okay.
that's going on. And leading right into that, we have spoke to our webmaster. We have the ability to put all our permits and fees online, fillable forms. She'll come in, she and I will execute that. What I've asked everyone to do is perform a comprehensive review of all the permits and fees. So when we're putting it on, we put on the most up-to-date information. We look at some of the fees. And of course, they have to come through for approval, but that's what we're doing with that. The next topic would be meeting with the Chamber of Commerce president, and that was a very productive meeting. We met for over an hour, and I was very candid with him. And I said that my job was to make sure that we had business in Pownal, and that I would endorse participation in the chamber for our businesses if we knew that it was truly a regional Chamber of Commerce. And he assured us not only is it, but they're changing the name at some point, away from Bennington Regional to another name that just bespeaks regional Chamber of Commerce. And I highly recommend that businesses in town join the chamber. There's training, there's workforce training, there's managerial training, there's a lot of opportunities. So I'll be going to some of those just to make contact with other people to try to direct them back to our community. So that was productive.
Who's the president now of the chamber?
The gentleman's name is Matt, and quite frankly,
Matt Harrington.
Matt Harrington, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Saved my life there. Very, very sharp guy. With that, I met with Southern Vermont Economic Development Board, and I'll be meeting with them. They have approved their comprehensive economic development strategy. If you have a microscope and you got a lot of time on your hands, you want to read that. One of the observations I made and I reported to them on was what stuck out to me is there was no means to evaluate state regulations pertaining to business. And I assured them that my idea was not to usurp those regulations, but to find ways to streamline them. And I cited our 1.5 mile walking trail that took 5 different state officials to come down and walk through. And I thought that was a bit excessive. And they have a bunch of other things that are very good ideas, but they omitted that one. And I thought that was probably a pretty productive thing to do to streamline how we can get businesses in, and we're weeding through those. And the other observation I had was they spoke repeatedly about younger people coming to Vermont, and I had mentioned that all the data indicated that there was just not enough. older people, and that we were fourth in the country for people coming into our state, and that the demographic was older people, people 50 and above, and that if we were going to look at demographics, we ought to look at that. So I'm pretty active with that, as you can probably tell. So working with that. So that would be that. So do you have any questions on any of that?
Yeah. If no one else is raising their hand, I'd like to chime in.
Go ahead.
All right. Just as we go through all that, we have to pay pretty close attention to the things that we already know, right? Forbes, the PRI indexes, and a lot of other things have already given Vermont a lot of information about what's holding us back.
Yes, I agree.
And I would also say that I've had the pleasure of reading the preliminary SWOT analysis coming out of the Economic Development Committee, and there's a lot of really good information in it. A lot of really good information, and some of it is local, so it's not all so our hurdles. Our hurdles to economic development are at multiple levels, state level, county level. Some of it's going to be hard to get around, but there are some things at the local level as well. I think it references, and I'm glad we're looking into the permits and streamlining those, but we also ought to take a look at our fees, just like you said, and do those things really, do some of those things really serve any purpose? Or are they more just obstacles to economic growth and to new businesses? So I would recommend that everybody on the board, in fact, everybody, read the SWOT analysis when it does come out. In my view, the preliminary one that I read is exceptionally good.
And thank you for that. They did a great job, and I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that struck me was we have 9.6% of our population that lives below the poverty level, and businesses can't find work or can't find employees. So we have to somehow find out where that gap is and try to solve that as best we can. But yeah, I agree with you.
I agree with that to some point, but I think a lot of the things that we don't have. I would look to the national organizations like Forbes and those to really rank what things are higher priorities. I believe if we had more economic growth and economic opportunity, we would have a better workforce, and people would be coming here, not leaving here.
I don't disagree with that.
You got to look at those things because I think we might be putting the cart before the horse with that. I've seen that conclusion multiple times. And I'm not sure how valid it is when you start ranking the things. And it's not that it's not an issue, it's that it doesn't rank as the biggest issues. The biggest issues are the cost of doing business in Vermont is much higher than anywhere else. And the second one is our over-regulation. I think if we peel off those, you're going to find that more people are going to come here.
I don't disagree with you, and I wasn't suggesting that we rank them, but if you have other resources, if you would email them to me, that I can look at those. Because I agree with you in terms of ranking it, that's a futile kind of a thing, because some of that is synergistic and some of that standalone. So I agree with you there, and if you have some more resources, that'd be helpful.
I can certainly send those, and I will.
Thank you.
I just want to caution against identifying the symptom as the problem, because a lot of these things really are symptoms, not problems.
I understand, and if I made it sound like that, that wasn't my intent.
No, you didn't. I'm just I've read a lot on them, so I've got some of the details.
Excellent. So, thank you. I think it would help.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
You got it. The next item is the alarm system in the highway garage. I looked into that at your big request, and apparently a year and a half ago we signed a contract to have that done, and it's not being done. I've made 2 attempts at email, 1 telephone call. I haven't gotten the company, and I'm going to kind of throw the gauntlet down and say you either respond to me or we're going to go someplace else. So if anybody has any other...
I thought it had been
Sounds
done too.
good.
I remember when we did it.
Yeah. Later on, we'll be doing I've done employee evaluations, and at the end of the meeting, we'll go to executive session.
Okay.
Staff meeting, so.
Okay.
That went very well. And we talked about Ladbrook. The next is, I request $45 be expended so that I can go to local government day at the legislature on February 14th,
Could we
2019.
back up just
Sure.
a little bit?
Yes, sir.
This Ladbrook thing,
Yes.
just out of curiosity, I mean, some, maybe bigger towns with bigger finance, who's gonna own this? Who's gonna do this?
Well, there's new owners, and they're doing all the finance, and they want to change this to,
So this is a private entity.
Private
We're just-
entity,
We're
yes.
just gonna be working to help them get set up for.
absolutely. We're helping them to go through the process that
We're
we
not
have.
gonna be involved with this in any shape or manner.
No, we're just helping them to push the process
Well,
through
I
so that we
wanted
give
that.
them the information they need to get the
Okay,
job done.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's-
So they're applying to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I want to do is make sure that they understand the process. I don't want to discourage people from doing
And what is
business.
the process?
Well, the process starts with, they have to have someone develop a plan, and then they go to the planning board, or, well, through the zoning administrator. And the zoning administrator will identify different parts of the zoning bylaws that have to be looked into, change of condition, change of use. There's sewer, which we've already spoke to Darcy, and she's going to walk everybody through. And then it would go, and Michael's here, so he can clarify it if need be, but that would eventually go through the planning board and then the development review board. It's, from what they want to do and what the steps they have to do is, it's lengthy, but it's not insurmountable. And again, the idea is to make sure that they have the proper information so they can execute that.
Why are you shaking
Why am I
your head?
shaking my head? No, they would only come to the planning board for clarification of any of the
Thank you.
bylaw. They would wind up in front of the DRB.
DRB
for
first?
Final
Okay.
applications.
Thank you for
and
clarifying
plans.
that, Michael.
No, no problem.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Just for public information, what exactly is it they want to do with this place?
They want to go from a motel, they want to become.
Excuse me, you gotta come up and
Okay.
state your name, Fred, just so everybody knows who you are.
Yeah.
And ask your questions so everybody can hear it, please.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, Fred Miller, I was just asking, what exactly is it that the Ladbrook wants to do?
They want to change from a motel to workforce housing.
Okay. So it's more of a long-term?
Yeah, this is long-term residency.
Resident,
Yeah,
rather
workforce
than,
housing.
rather than transient?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any more on the Ladbrook discussion?
And
Okay.
the request for $45 to attend local government day on 14th of February on.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Aye. Bob?
Aye.
Carried.
Next item is first draft of the town's emergency action plan. This is very simply emergency actions that we as employees take should there be fire, flooding, pestilence. Speaks to medical emergencies, fire, utilizes all hazards, give a slight briefing of what our responsibilities are, what we're supposed to do once we leave the building, and our responsibility for the citizens. We've begun training to supplement this, and I ask that you take a critical look at it and at some point go through that and we'll talk about it later for approval, but I want it before you so you can read it.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, that would be awesome.
Is that a town plan?
Yes, it's a town plan. Yeah, just that way, you know, if there's a fire in this building, everybody has a plan for getting out and where do we report to, that type of thing.
When I asked as far as Harry Percy,
Yep.
as far as the town plan, I didn't know if it was an emergency plan for our whole
No,
town.
it's just employees.
Okay.
Just employees, yeah.
We have an emergency
Operations plan.
operations plan for the town already.
Thank you.
Yes, we do. The next is Town of Pownal transitional return to work. You expressed that you wanted to ensure that there was language that prevented this from being any way, shape, or form long-term. So I just basically at the top of the document put This policy does not imply, suggest, or recommend an employee be reassigned, reclassified, or shall remain on limited assigned duty long-term. And if that is to your satisfaction, which I hope it would be, if that takes care of what you were concerned about, if there's anything else, I'd be happy to address that.
I'm good with it.
And if that were okay, and if you were comfortable with passing that, I'd request a vote.
Questions on it?
No, you answered mine. I said it wasn't a long-term thing, I hope.
No, it's not.
We're gonna have long-term, let's have them apply for long-term disability. They can pay it themselves. I mean, it may be a harsh way, but you gotta look at it in such a manner that people can afford it. No, I'm all for that. I'll make a motion that we sign it or whatever, okay.
I'll second it.
Whatever you want.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 I'll give it to you
Bob?
first to sign.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried.
And the next, that it? Okay, the next is, I revised the Town of Pownal procedures for select board meetings. I did so as a result of some of the confusion that we had from meetings and some of the, and I need to find that document so that I can run through some of the changes.
Thank you.
Where'd that bugger go?
Take the packet apart.
Yeah. It should be in the packet. I probably jumbled everything. Thank you very much. I made a suggestion. These are all recommendations, by the way. You can change whatever you want. Under organization, under number 5, I made the suggestion that the chair shall vote on all questions of appointments or financial matters. Number 6, I made the suggestion to add, on any vote, the chair shall state, all those in favor indicate by saying aye, all those opposed signify by saying nay. Votes must be audible and clearly reflect the choice of the member. Any question of intent of a vote, chair shall conduct a roll call vote. I suggest on number 8, on all questions of appointments, all select board members must be in attendance. One member attending via Skype or conference call is acceptable. And I believe that was it. And that was it. If you have any other suggestions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So what happens if we have 2 board members out and 2 board members want to call in? How does that work?
That was going to be my question too.
Okay.
It should be allowable.
It's,
According to this, it won't be.
and that certainly can be added in. If you choose to do that.
But how would we do that? Can that take 2 people?
The party line.
That I don't know.
Okay.
Would that be,
I
So
don't
maybe-
think so. One would have to use cell phone.
No, you could do a conference.
yeah?
You could do a conference call.
Okay.
I think our problem was having 2 people, 2 call in at the same time when we first did it. Bob, didn't we have a problem with that?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember trying to do 2 people. Actually, we had talked about what we were doing. Nelson was talking about calling in, and then he decided not to call in, so we never really tested.
So we didn't get to try it.
Right.
There is a way to do it. I have the same system at work, and we have 5 or 6 people call in at the same time. And we sit in a conference room.
I haven't seen it work. I haven't seen a phone system that can't do a conference call.
So maybe we could contact
Yeah.
Chuck and see what our
Yeah.
capabilities are there.
Yeah.
And then you want me to add that language in?
Well, I think we should, before we approve this.
Oh, I don't
change-
suggest approving,
Okay.
approving it. That's why I've made suggestions and we can modify it, do whatever you want.
I believe that I checked into this when Bob first came on the board about calling in, and I read where everybody has to vote accordingly, but I also read that there has to be only be 1 person in the room, 1 select board member in the room, and the public can be here. But there has to be at least 1. It doesn't say that 4 can be out or whatever, but I think we could look at that through Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns again and check into it.
I believe
I was surprised at it.
Yeah, I was surprised at that too,
Yeah,
honestly.
I was very surprised.
Sure, we have a question. Come on
If
up
you
here.
just read-
You gotta come on up and state your name, please.
Mike Slattery. if you read the open meeting law, that's where it's discussed about how many people need to be here. I was under the impression as long as you have a public place for members to, or citizens to show up, I'm not even sure any select board member has to be here, but I could be wrong.
I think it said one. But
That
I
would
could
make
be wrong,
sense,
too.
wouldn't it? It would clearly make sense
But we
to do
should check
that.
into
But
it.
And we will.
you can be all over the country and call in as long as the public can come in and comment.
This was intended to start a conversation to make this a workable document versus, so,
Right.
yeah, so, again, Turtle wins this race. We do it right.
And also
Go ahead.
on the voting, is that according to the select board handbook too? Did you?
I know that
the
it's, that holding your hand up and raising your hand and saying aye is the standard for affirmative vote, and all those opposed by saying nay, nay. I added the caveat of if he doesn't understand who voted, and to hold a roll call vote to clarify the question. That was my add-in.
But I think part of our discussion before, and I was all for the chair always voting, but I thought there was some question as to whether the chair had to vote or didn't have to vote. Did we clarify that?
Yes, the chair has to decide what he's going to do prior,
At the beginning
at the beginning of the
term.
meeting. Yeah.
Beginning of the meeting or the term?
What I understood was the meeting, but if it's the term.
Each individual meeting,
Yeah.
he can change his mind as to how he votes?
Let me double check on that, because I thought it was meeting, but let's see. I'll find out.
Because Ronnie and I know we both mentioned it should be decided when you
It should be
reorganize the
decided
board.
when you make up the board,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned.
And if that's as far as you're concerned, that's all really we need. And I can put that in. And that would alleviate a lot of issues. And I will make those changes.
Without going through all this, right, do we have anything in here about voting on things that are not on the agenda? So if something's not warned in our agenda and it comes up for a vote.
From my, and I'm, you know what, I'm going to
that's kind
find
of
out.
It's been gray in the past.
I will make that clear. I don't want to speak out of turn, because what I think is correct may not be correct. I want to make sure I'm backing it up by
Just
facts.
a question to add to the draft.
Okay. Chair voting, what was the other one?
Voting on things that are
Voting on,
on
not on
the
agenda,
agenda.
voting not on agenda.
And how many people have to be at a meeting? And I can tell you, it's very hard to be on the phone away from a meeting and still feel involved.
I can imagine
Just
it
from the
is,
one
I've never
time
had to
that I did
experience
it, I
that.
thought,
And
And your phone was beeping and making all kinds of noises during our
well,
meeting.
I was muting it, and I didn't realize every time I muted it, it made a beep.
And we couldn't see when your hand was up either.
I know, and yeah, you couldn't see when I raised my hand, and
So,
the puppy was barking, and
so I have my marching orders, and I will work on that.
okay.
There was a request from Ms. Cindy Brunel to consider the town taking over the school buses, 2 school buses from the town. So with the help of Joe Burrington, we got some more information on it, some financial information, and you have that in your packet.
so what will that mean for us?
Well, it means for, what they're asking for is that the town take possession of the buses. This to be able to facilitate them at their own timeline, taking kids on school field trips versus having to rely on the company to do so on the school's timeline. Giving them the flexibility, they would belong to the town, as would the insurance, as would be maintenance, as would be sinking fund to buy new ones. And you have your copy, Ron? It's
in our
in our
It's in our
packet.
packet.
It's
It looks like this.
so You have one vehicle with a little over 46,000 miles, one with 37,000. They run about 5,000 miles a year. And last year their buses did about 45 trips, and our cost was $4,500. It would be $14,500 for Q4 to do the same thing. New bus cost $80,000 to $90,000. They try to replace every 10 to 12 years. Usually $4,000 per year in fuel, $2,500 in maintenance, $2,800 per vehicle in insurance, and close to $4,000 in wages. So it's a total of $13,135 approximately. So those are the figures before you to make that better make that decision on behalf of the town. That would go in our budget.
So what's the average life of a bus,
It's
mileage-wise?
10 to 12 years. Joel was here, right?
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
More,
Want to
much
come on
more.
up and state your name?
We usually run 10 to 12 years on a bus. We can get longer out of them, you know. Our biggest problem, like I said, was rust. Same with the town trucks or anything. They're in the salt. Yep.
And they're not stored inside or anything?
No, no, they don't have any inside storage.
What's your feeling on this?
I think it would be a good thing for the kids, you know, to keep it going. It's a big undertaking, I think, for the town. I think we'd have to do a lot of figuring out what's going to happen, whether the school's going to reimburse us some. I don't know.
It doesn't sound like it, since they're a separate entity, right?
Yeah, they're going to be. We talked about the bus sinking fund some, as far as putting, you know, that back into the town to run it for a while. I don't know what they have.
I've asked a couple times for a number, and I haven't got a number yet. I don't know what's in that fund right now at all.
I heard anywhere from 80 to 115,000.
That's quite a gap.
So, the thing is, the town voted it out of the bus sinking fund for, I think, building maintenance. So again, if you were going to do that and the board was willing, the town would have to vote that out of the building maintenance and put it in a town bus fund, if they were thinking about doing it.
And then you'd have several line items, fuel, insurance.
Yeah, the fuel was a little high, I thought. The numbers were from the SU. I would say fuel maybe $2,500 a year, but I don't know. I've been out of it a while, so I don't.
Question: would we need two buses?
That Mr. Brunel's not here. I can't answer
Okay,
that.
okay.
Some,
So I don't know if we're ready to make a decision tonight.
well,
I think
some
it's more of a,
field trips, yes, they run quite a few kids. They'll run 100 and some odd kids.
really okay.
So they do. One good thing with having the buses at the school, in case of an emergency or something happens, you know, you do have a means to jump in them and get the kids away from the school. That's right. That's one of the big points, I think. But, you know, rather than calling in or whatever and trying to get a bus on short notice.
Right. Question.
There are buses.
Question.
Oh, I wanted to make sure I
Can you
heard.
come
Can you
up?
come on to the mic, please?
Yeah, whatever you want to clarify.
You're saying that this is for two current buses?
Yeah, two current buses.
But then would the town be responsible to keep two buses in the future? Or is it just these two buses and then, you know, something happens to them and then that's it?
There doesn't seem like there'd be any obligation unless there are buses that, if these buses fail and you decide you don't want to have buses anymore, that would be up to the board. There's no contractual agreement. This is a decision that they would make now, and then in the future when that came up, they would have the right to do that.
Question?
Harry
Come on up,
Percy.
come on up.
Harry Percy. I was wondering, is there any, do you foresee other uses for the town for these buses also? I know one of the points Cindy brought up was there was times when the teacher scheduled trips and DeForest or whoever the bus line is now presently has dropped the ball and our kids haven't gone on these trips because nobody's showing up with a bus. That was the reason why, one of the reasons why this came up.
You'd be the best one to answer that, I think.
Well, that's happened with a Mount Pelier trip once. That
So it's not consistent.
slipped,
Yeah.
yeah, through the cracks. And actually, I think it was Tejan that didn't show up, and I think Dufour was the one who sent a bus and brought him.
Other than that, I hadn't contemplated any other uses, to be honest with you.
I didn't know if the town would use it for training to go elsewhere or whatever.
Well, you could.
I'm just
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
throwing it out.
they'd be
Emergency
our
management can
buses.
use it.
Right.
The drivers have to be certified, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
for school kids.
Right, not anybody can drive, we have certain
Right.
drivers.
Yeah,
that
see,
are-
they all, they haven't had a bus endorsement.
They have to have a bus endorsement.
Anything over, what, 15 passengers?
16 it is.
Well, then obviously you have to have enough use to make it worthwhile, right? You know, how often do the training? How often will we use it for training? How often will we use it for these other purposes? And then does the cost justify the maintenance? And
That's right.
Right,
Yeah, she suggested 45 trips a year, Bob.
425, not 45.
45.
45 trips per year?
That's roughly, we figured it out in the end there as a comparison. So Dufour could give us a price on what it would cost. And they were about $10,000 more for the same amount of trips.
And then you have the whole month of July
Yeah, you have
that's used every day for
summer school.
the summer
Now,
rec.
That's,
The recreation program.
that's in a whole different town budget
That's right.
anyhow, no matter who does it.
Not at present, it's not budgeted for. I mean, yeah, it's the rec budget, but I don't think the rec budget was counting on putting money aside for buses at this point.
No, not for, but they pay the
Okay.
driver.
I
is what
understand,
they do.
okay.
The school pays the fuel.
I think this needs a lot more research.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is because, you know, then we accept all the liabilities, we accept all this other stuff. And I mean, if as far as like a lady in the audience there spoke about, if our buses, if we run them out, I wouldn't care. But as far as continuing this program and buying buses for, you know, I'm sure, because we don't even know what the school is doing. We have no idea what that school's doing. That school may be empty.
I think it'd be important to have Cindy here to discuss it.
You know, I
because
don't
think-
disagree. I did the best I could getting this
Because I think
information.
the issue
but-
here is that we're gonna lose our district, our school district here, and the taxpayers have paid for these buses, we own them now.
Right.
We don't wanna lose the buses to the,
Yeah,
Well, that's the
to the
point.
consolidation,
That's-
correct? Is
that's-
that correct?
Yeah, one thing is, we would like to keep, you know, what buses, whether we keep the program up or not, because the taxpayers voted and they paid for them, all the buses. So,
And if we decided not to use them or not to take them, what happens to them then? If the town decides not to take them, what happens to them?
I guess they go to the VSU, the new foreign district, for $1 maybe. I think they have
And
to
if we
sign
decide
over.
to keep them and then after a while don't use them, can we sell them? Are we allowed
Yeah,
to?
they'll be, if we go through and accept the buses, they will be ours.
I think Ronnie's right. I think we need a lot more information and
And I concur with Ms. Brunel being here because there's clearly, I did the best I can, but I don't have all the answers for her.
And I
She
don't
needs to
either.
defend this herself.
I've been out of it a long time.
Yeah. And I'll relay that to her, ask her if she,
I'm almost wondering if it's worth a discussion at town meeting when the school board is there and other people are there too, talking to townspeople and see how they feel too.
would that work from a timeline in terms of getting it into the budget line item? Or not?
Oh, you have to get it in the budget?
Was this not going to be a ballot article?
I don't think so.
Asking the citizens of the town if they were willing to take the school buses over?
Could be,
That was
could
my
be.
thinking
Yeah.
when I'm looking at
Thought it-
this, why
yeah.
aren't we asking
You're kind
the
of
town?
asking
That's what
that.
I understood.
Yeah, that's kind
It
of,
was to be
yeah.
a ballot
think,
article.
yeah,
That's gotta be, yeah.
It would be a good idea to let the people vote on it.
Yeah.
Right,
Not just make a
So,
decision.
yeah, it would have to be part of the budget line. It would have to be added as an article in the budget, so.
I would let the people vote on it. If they want it, they want it. If they want to keep them, if they don't, they don't. Then
And that would put the burden back on Ms. Brunel to get all that information so she can submit the ballot
So she-
article.
submit the ballot article, and then we can discuss it at town meeting, so
Makes sense.
everybody, if
Makes a lot of
anybody
sense.
from town has questions.
Okay, that's a great idea. Thanks, appreciate that.
Could I just ask how old the buses are?
One is a.
2011 and 2013.
Yeah, thank you.
One's got 46,000 miles on it, and the other's got 37,000 miles on it.
And they're fully paid for. The town wouldn't be taking on additional debt by taking these.
No,
Okay.
They're paid for.
they're paid for. We would be putting money into a sinking fund.
Okay.
to
I
pay
just wasn't
forward.
sure if they were already paid for or if the town would be taking over payments on them.
You're paying forward a sinking fund in order to.
Yeah,
buy
I
the
understood the
place.
sinking
Yeah.
fund part, but
Yeah.
I didn't know
No,
if they were already
they're
paid
paid
for, if
for,
there
yeah.
was debt still associated with them.
Do you mind just speaking your name
Oh,
so
sorry.
people know who you are?
Just so we know.
Brian Harris.
Thanks, Mike.
Great, thanks.
Okay,
Next item.
I'm okay.
Next item is the resignation from the Economic Development Committee from Adam Todorsky due to an increased business travel for 2019. Not have much time to invest in activities like this committee going forward, and as such must resign. He will be missed. He's a real smart guy, and he put a lot of that SWOT development together. I suggest we accept that with our deepest regrets. And I would need a vote.
Motion to accept with regret.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, if I could just chime in a little bit. I know that he did put a lot of the primary in that SWOT analysis. I feel it was acceptable. I mean, he was really primary. He's got big shoes to fill.
Right.
We really have to be careful and very selective to put in his place, because that's the committee's good, but he was the chair, and he was I believe a driving force. And I did want to comment a little bit on the SWOT analysis one more time. We're about to enter into revamping our bylaws to bring them into line with our town plan. I strongly recommend a close look at that SWOT analysis, particularly around predictability on businesses, and particularly around limiting churn to be a disincentive to business investment. I know we haven't updated our bylaws in a while, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It creates predictability for business investment. So the unpredictability, let's make sure that as we go into these discussions, that we're really considering all sides. All these pieces play together.
We'd be encouraged to know that Michael Slatterly was attending our last meeting, and that was part of the discussion to work together on those. So that
Absolutely.
your idea is well taken.
You have a question?
Go ahead.
So if this guy has resigned, does it mean we have openings on that committee?
One.
One opening, and do we have to post it?
It was posted.
It's posted online?
Yes.
It's in the website. It was also in the last newsletter, in the January newsletter.
Yes.
Okay.
And when are we planning to, whenever somebody applies, we'll plan to fill it, but
Right. If
There's no
someone
deadline.
applies, we'll evaluate that, whether we make that recommendation. And the gentleman has good recommendation that we do that judiciously, because that's a pretty important committee.
Any more discussion on that? If not, we'll vote on it. So all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Bob?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I recommend, considering that we would go into executive session, for me to go through personnel evaluations, that you move old business and new business before the executive session.
Sure. go to old business, budget discussion, fiscal year 19 and 20.
You want to lead off? I put a,
No.
I drafted a, basically an appeal and made my points of what I thought the budget should, we should go with the budget. The way we had originally presented it represented a little over, at least for the general fund, a little over 3% increase with 100,000 of undesignated funds going to help pay down a new town hall. The remainder going in the going into the general fund, which would only make the new budget more $28,000 over the last year's budget. And what I wanted to make sure that that we understood is that we zeroed a budget. I didn't want us to go down kind of a hole where we're not able to do things, upgrade things, particularly technology, equipment, and that type of thing. That the staff, we sat down and we really put together a very realistic budget. There was nothing in there that was fluff or not relevant, and that there you could see by some of the line items that we cut as much as we added, and we did so judiciously. So I would encourage that, you know, that you would consider that before we make any final decision. And I have a duty to make my recommendation, and I also want to have a duty that you rest assured that whatever you decide, I will follow faithfully.
Very good question.
I would like to make a recommendation and possibly a motion, because we only had a work session and there was only 3 of us at the work session, that we do another work session with the full board. And I've spoke to Nelson, and he can meet on a Saturday or he could meet on a Monday morning.
I'm happy to meet whenever you
And
want
I
to.
think it would be better if we had a full board, because a lot of us still have some questions, unanswered questions on.
Understood.
What are schedules look like for this Saturday morning?
I don't have anything pressing.
Is that enough time to warn a meeting, Linda?
Yes. Well, I was kind of suggesting, let me see the calendar.
Maybe a week from Saturday.
Yeah, Bob, could you, what's today? Today's the
10th.
10th.
I might not be here on the 20th. But that's Sunday, the 19th. I might not be here that weekend.
That Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and
Correct.
we're off.
And
But we could meet that, I could meet that day, Jason
Okay.
could meet that day, Nelson could meet that day.
What
I
are
don't
you
know
doing for
about Bob
Martin
and
Luther King
Ronnie.
Day? Are you going to be available, or?
You on
It's a
holiday?
paid holiday, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you paying yourself to work,
I'm
Ron?
paying myself.
pay yourself double time, huh?
Yeah, double time. I'm proposing the 21st, or the, what's the Monday, the 21st?
At what time, ma'am?
Like
Are you available, Bob?
for my, no, I mean it's a work day, and I work on work days.
Okay, would you be available on a Saturday?
I would. So if we were talking the Saturday the 19th, that would be better for me than this Saturday, but I could do either.
But Michael, you can't do the 19th?
I don't believe I can. I could find out for certain. If we want to put out a couple of tentative dates and then we can shore them up later, or do you want to make sure that we get it? Because we have to by the 31st, right?
Bob, can you do this? I don't know, Jason, can you do Monday the 14th?
I could try. I don't know.
You
if
gotta
I can,
work.
I
Yeah, we'd have to take
work.
days off from work.
Saturday. Bob, are you available Saturdays?
I am available Saturdays. I would not be available during a work day, and in the evenings I could call in.
All right.
So this
I
Saturday
have
doesn't work?
either person on a Saturday.
This Saturday is fine with me. I don't know if Nelson can do it. Can you do it, Ronnie, this Saturday?
Yeah, I can do it.
Michael?
Michael, can you?
Yeah.
Bob, can you?
Well, I guess, so what time are we proposing?
That's good with everybody. 10? 9?
9 o'clock?
9?
Sounds good to me.
I could do 9.
Okay. We have enough time to warn it, so. Okay. 9 o'clock here this Saturday morning.
All right.
9 a.m. January 12th. Okay.
The next item, been working with Mr. Shuey on transfer fees. We have a 9% increase in trash fee. 9%, $7 increase, went from $79 to $86 for garbage bags. We are recommending to go up 10% on our garbage bags. The fees are should be in your packet. The question came up of recycling. Now, permit fees cover recycling, and we are told that recycling should stay relatively steady. And Tom has a lot of good spreadsheet data, and I'm reluctant to recommend raising that permit fee just to do it for the sake of doing it. If we're covering the cost, I think we should leave it the same. But in terms of trash, we do have to cover that cost. So I would recommend that we do a 10% raise in our fees, and as they're written before you.
And that increases in transportation, just so
Absolutely.
right. So
Yeah,
this would be
we've talked about this a great deal. Tom's been way ahead of it, and I've talked to Trevor as well. And I'm honestly surprised that recycling is not going up as much as he said it's going to go up, because there's nowhere to put it. So,
So I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see your hand.
Go ahead.
So transportation costs. This is the cost of transporting our garbage to a landfill.
Correct.
Okay. And right now we have the one carrier that's doing it.
Correct.
Would it be feasible to put it out to bid?
You know, we could do that. I don't know that would change the fact that the cost is going up, but I certainly could do that if you want. We can
Just
do
a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you
we
guys think about it. I mean, if
yeah.
we're looking at trying to save money here. And
Well, one of the things, TAM is in our town, and
okay.
So, ma'am.
I just want to, I have a proposal, and I also want to clarify that the last time we mentioned the transfer station, and I asked how much it costs to run it, it was all over Channel 3 News, Channel 6 News, that we wanted to close the transfer station, which was not true. I'm not proposing that now. I'm asking another
I
question.
know he quoted me, and I never talked to anybody.
And my concern that night was the fact that I think it's important that everybody realizes that the taxpayers also pay for that transfer station. We should all know what that cost is.
Right.
Right.
And eventually, I think that should be made public.
Absolutely.
People, and everybody knows that it's a very large amount of money that we all pay for, and we don't all use it.
Correct.
My question is, would it help us? I've noticed that the town of Shasberry is open 3 days a week, but 2 of them are half days, not full days. They're open from 7 to noon on Tuesday, they're open from 11 to 4 on Thursday, and they're open all day on Saturday. If we did something like that, would it save us anything?
Well, when Tom took over, we had a change in the hours, and that was to meet people's needs. There's an explanation, a very good explanation as to his hours, right?
Okay.
That he does. I don't remember what it is, to be honest.
I don't know to what end, it's just a
Yeah.
question I'm asking, would it
It's a
save
worthy
us
question. I
anything?
just don't. You have a specific volume coming in. You have a specific volume going out, which is generated on this spreadsheet, so it's pretty finite. But I'm open to anything.
I'm just trying to help save money and keep our taxes
it's
down.
a big problem. It's not going to go away in a hurry. And again, I'm trying to make this so that we're not killing our taxpayers, but it's got to go somewhere.
And again, I appreciate you guys at the transfer station. I'm not trying to shut you down. I use it.
Put the voodoo dolls down.
So this sheet that we have tonight, this is,
That's it.
that's with the 10%
Yes, it
increase.
is. That's what we would be voting on. Should you choose to.
With the 10% increase, these are the numbers.
Correct.
Right
All the way-
now.
Yeah, right now, the 10% increase, starting with number 1 all the way down to, culminating down to number 9.
Yes. Question, come on up.
Harry Percy. You speak in volume, but what have been the weight of the poles?
I don't have that off the top of my
Because
head.
that's the other thing that I know in the past, the 2 previous people that operated the transfer station, they were attempting to put as much weight, compacting it into that volume. And
We don't have a way of weighing. We've talked about that in the past.
they used to weigh
I don't
them. I know they used to get the weights from the Casella and
From the hauler afterwards, right. But we don't
Yeah,
have a
they
way of.
charge us by the weight.
So I'm just.
But that's why the backhoe's over there,
Yep.
to pack it. But I mean, I'm just looking at these things. I mean, most people, when they go there, they got 13-gallon, 20-gallon bag or something. I mean, I think them prices are ridiculously low, considering we're subsidizing it. You want to think about that a little bit, because I mean, if that they've already, I mean, if you had $2, it went up 10%, it went up 20 cents. I mean, that don't seem like that covered much. I mean, I'm not trying to crucify anybody. But
No.
if I had a bag of trash and I could get rid of it for, I think $3 is pretty cheap, as far as I'm concerned. I pay more than that, plus, and I'm helping to subsidize the thing too.
So much.
So
I mean, it's
whatever
just
whatever your pleasure.
well, I mean, we ought to at least break it up to so we can get a little bit extra on this thing in order to compensate. Because what are we paying? $70,000? The town? $60,000-$70,000? That's quite a lot of money.
On top of what we make, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's after you take off the other
Take off
stuff.
what we make, yeah.
I mean, I don't mind, and I realize that you can't get it taken away from your house for that anyway. I know that for sure.
Right.
That would bring us up to about 24,741.50 from 22,000. So you want to go up. What would your suggestion be? That we could revise this if you wanted.
Well, I mean, it ought to go up enough so at least the customer notices it. Yeah, I wouldn't even notice it at $2 if it was $180 before.
Would you like us to go back and make another recommendation?
Well, I think we should. As far as this, there's a couple of, once you get down into construction and demolition, we don't have a good way of knowing what it is.
I beg your pardon.
Bennington does.
Some of the
They weigh.
some of the construction was added, and I did forget that. That was a 25-cent increase on construction. I left that out. I apologize.
No, but I mean, like if we have this cubic yard stuff, we're guessing at it.
We are.
We aren't.
Absolutely.
It ain't being weighed or nothing.
Absolutely, we are.
So if a guy brings in his stuff, he's got a truck full of feathers, well, he's really getting shafted. Common sense, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Those guys with the cinder blocks, they're really getting it.
yeah.
Could we maybe finish this discussion on this in our work session on Saturday?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
And I'll
we
make
ought
sure
to just
Tom knows
adjust it
that.
up a little.
And I would like
more.
to see, Michael, if you could, what our rates have, go back the last 3 years and see what we've done in the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
I think it's important too, people realize that when you do get a dump sticker, you're also entitled to a free truckload,
Yes.
Free dump day.
free dump
Yeah.
day, which is a pickup truckload.
Yeah, it's down to 1 truckload a day, but that's plenty.
Right.
Sounds good.
Come on up, Don.
I just had a suggestion too, is after listening to it, is there anything, do we have any scales at all that we can get? That we
Talked
put
about it in
into-
the past.
For that specific reason?
It'd be kind of costly.
We've talked about it in the past.
There's nothing out there?
It's not only costly, it would be labor intensified.
Mhm.
If a guy's got 3 bags, you see the 3 bags, there it is, charge him for 3 bags. But if you gotta weigh it,
Right, I
And
mean,
we're not
just
gonna
like
put in
the
a platform
construction
scale
stuff,
or nothing.
based on, basically just for the construction materials and stuff, because of the weight of that goes up faster and they're not paying enough for that.
I know what you're talking about, where you have the scale where the folks
just a
drive
truck
up,
scale.
they weigh,
Yeah.
and then on the way out you pay
Right.
the difference in the
Yeah.
weight of your truck.
I don't know if we had any kind of means of getting something just to weigh that, because that cost is gonna.
We've talked about it, the cost of
offset.
scales is big money, big.
And calibrating them and
There's a lot of maintenance to it.
And we gotta
There's a
maintain
lot
them
of-
and get them certified.
Yeah, on a regular basis.
Okay.
good suggestion. So we'll bring this back on Saturday and talk about it.
Okay.
So that's all I have. The next would be
Okay.
your executive session.
Okay, with that said, I'll take a motion to move.
I'll make a
For
motion to
personal
into
evaluations.
executive session for personal evaluation. Personnel.
Would you have to adjourn this meeting first before you open that one, or is that?
No?
No,
Okay, all right, just wondering.
we just throw the audience out.
Let me know how that works for you.
You go first, Roddy.
Hey,
Go ahead.
buddy.
So you made the motion, who
I made
seconded
the
it?
motion. Who seconded it?
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor, state by
Aye.
saying aye. Bob?
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 Bob,
Hello?
you there?
I am. Aye.
Okay.